When you grow old, three types of neighbors to avoid, three types of relatives to keep your distance from. As we age, our circle of relationships often becomes more important than ever. Maintaining healthy and meaningful connections contributes to a fulfilling and peaceful life, especially for seniors in their golden years. However, not all relationships are positive or nourishing. Some can drain our energy, compromise our well being, or disrupt our peace. Here, we'll discuss the types of neighbors and relatives that may pose challenges and offer insights on navigating these dynamics with wisdom and grace. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. 1. Three types of neighbors to avoid. 1. The nosy neighbor. A nosy neighbor can be more than just a mild inconvenience. They can become a persistent intruder into the sanctuary of your home life. These individuals often operate under the guise of friendliness or concern, but their constant prying and curiosity can leave you feeling exposed and unsettled. They might casually inquire about your family, your finances, or even your daily habits, asking questions like, "I noticed you had visitors the other day. Who were they?" Or, "I saw the delivery truck. What did you order?" Over time, their relentless probing can erode your sense of privacy, turning what should be a peaceful neighborhood relationship into a source of stress. Nosy neighbors aren't necessarily malicious. Often they act out of boredom, loneliness, or an exaggerated sense of community involvement. However, their inability to respect boundaries can quickly become overwhelming, especially for seniors who deeply value their independence and personal space. The challenge lies in balancing neighborly kindness with the firm boundaries necessary to maintain your peace of mind. When you have a nosy neighbor, you may find yourself walking a fine line between being polite and safeguarding your privacy. Their presence can feel suffocating, as though you're living under a microscope. This dynamic can lead to feelings of discomfort and even vulnerability, especially if they begin to share your personal information with others in the community. How to respond thoughtfully. The key to managing a nosy neighbor is setting boundaries with kindness and tact. While it might be tempting to withdraw completely, fostering a sense of civility is often the more effective approach. When they ask intrusive questions, try redirecting the conversation with a neutral but friendly response. For example, if they inquire about your family's visits, you might say, "Everyone's doing well. Thank you for asking. How have you been enjoying the new season?" This subtly signals that certain topics are off limits while keeping the interaction cordial. It's also important to control the information you share. Nosy neighbors often thrive on oversharing, so be mindful of how much you reveal during casual conversations. Keep discussions light and steer clear of topics that might invite further probing. Remember, maintaining your privacy isn't rude, it's a way to protect your sense of autonomy. If their behavior persists or becomes invasive, don't hesitate to address it directly but gently. For instance, you could say, "I really value our chats, but I'm a private person and prefer not to discuss personal matters." A statement like this asserts your boundaries while preserving the relationship's cordiality. Ultimately, your home should feel like a place of refuge, not a stage for scrutiny. By managing the relationship with respect and assertiveness, you can reclaim your sense of peace without unnecessary conflict. The goal is not to alienate, but to ensure that every interaction you have, even with a nosy neighbor, aligns with your need for dignity, privacy, and calm in this chapter of life. 2. The constant complainer. The constant complainer is a neighbor who seems to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders and wants you to share in their burden. Every conversation with them revolves around a litany of grievances, whether it's the state of the neighborhood, the failings of local authorities, or even petty irritations about weather or trivial inconveniences. At first, their complaints may seem harmless or even relatable, But over time, their unrelenting negativity can feel like a cloud hanging over every interaction, draining your energy and affecting your own outlook on life. This type of neighbor rarely seeks solutions to the problems they lament. Instead, their focus remains squarely on the issues themselves, often magnifying small irritations into monumental crises. They may say things like, "The noise from the kids next door is unbearable. Someone should do something." Or, "Can you believe how awful the garbage pickup service is?" The underlying message is always one of dissatisfaction, and their words seldom offer room for hope or positivity. For seniors who treasure peace and a sense of stability, this constant negativity can be particularly challenging. You might find yourself dreading interactions with them, knowing the encounter will leave you feeling more burdened than before. Over time, their complaints can seep into your own mindset, making it harder to focus on the beauty and blessings in your life. How to respond thoughtfully. Dealing with a constant complainer requires a combination of empathy and self preservation. Acknowledge their concerns briefly, but resist the temptation to dive too deeply into their negativity. For instance, if they complain about a neighborhood issue, you could respond with, "That sounds frustrating," and then redirect the conversation towards something more positive or neutral. This keeps the interaction civil while protecting your emotional boundaries. It's also important to recognize when their complaints are affecting your own well being. Spending too much time absorbing their negativity can make you feel overwhelmed or pessimistic. If this begins to happen, consider limiting your interactions with them. A polite but firm approach can be helpful. "I've been trying to focus on the positives lately, so I'm not really up for discussing problems today." Another strategy is to subtly introduce a solution oriented perspective into the conversation. If they complain about a community issue, gently suggest an actionable step they could take. For example, "That sounds like something the neighborhood association could address. Maybe you could bring it up at the next meeting." This shifts the focus away from venting and toward potential resolutions, often diffusing their tendency to dwell on problems. Finally, surround yourself with neighbors and friends who bring positivity and encouragement into your life. It's important to balance interactions with complainers by fostering relationships that uplift and inspire you. This ensures that your energy and mindset remain focused on the joys and opportunities of life rather than being bogged down by someone else's perpetual discontent. Remember, compassion for others doesn't mean sacrificing your own peace. While it's kind to lend a listening ear occasionally, it's equally important to protect your mental and emotional well being. By setting boundaries and maintaining perspective, you can manage the constant complainer with grace, preserving your peace of mind and focusing on the positive connections that truly enrich your life. 3. The disrespectful neighbor. A disrespectful neighbor can turn what should be a sanctuary, your home, into a source of frustration and stress. This type of neighbor disregards common decency, showing little to no regard for how their actions impact those around them. They might blast music late into the night, let their yard fall into disrepair, or allow their pets to roam freely, leaving you to deal with the consequences. For seniors who value peace and consistency in their environment, such behavior can be particularly unsettling. Disrespectful neighbors often fail to acknowledge the unspoken social contract that binds a community together: mutual respect and consideration. This disregard can make you feel invisible, as though your comfort and needs don't matter. Over time, their actions or lack thereof can erode your sense of peace and even your connection to the neighborhood. For example, imagine eagerly tending to your garden only to have it damaged by a neighbor's unattended dog. Or picture a quiet evening disrupted by blaring music that shakes the walls of your home. These experiences can leave you feeling powerless, especially if your attempts to address the issue are met with indifference or hostility. How to respond thoughtfully. Dealing with a disrespectful neighbor requires a combination of courage, tact, and persistence. Start by addressing the issue directly but respectfully. Choose a calm moment to talk to them, avoiding times when tensions might already be high. Use I statements to communicate your feelings without assigning blame. For instance, I've noticed the noise at night has been quite loud, and it's been difficult for me to sleep. Could we find a way to work this out? This approach emphasizes your perspective while opening the door for dialogue. However, not all disrespectful neighbors will respond kindly or cooperatively. In such cases, documenting incidents can be an essential step. Keep a record of repeated disturbances, including dates and times, as this information can be valuable if the situation escalates and you need to involve a homeowners association, landlord, or local authorities. Another important aspect is setting firm boundaries. While you can't control their behavior, you can control how you respond and protect your space. For instance, investing in noise-canceling devices, fencing, or even landscaping to create a buffer can provide some relief. These measures might feel like a compromise, but they're often necessary to reclaim your peace. It's also helpful to connect with other neighbors who may share similar concerns. A united front often carries more weight than a single voice. Together, you can advocate for changes or improvements that benefit the entire community, fostering a sense of solidarity. Above all, remember that you deserve to feel safe and respected in your own home. While dealing with a disrespectful neighbor can be exhausting, maintaining your composure and asserting your rights will ultimately help you preserve the harmony and comfort you've worked so hard to build. It's not about winning a battle, but about reclaiming the serenity and respect every senior deserves. 2. 3 types of relatives to keep your distance from. 1. The chronic taker. The chronic taker is a relative who seems to appear only when they need something, a favor, money, or your time. At first, their requests might seem reasonable, even natural, because families are meant to support one another. But as time goes on, a pattern emerges. They never reciprocate. They take without giving, leaving you feeling drained, unappreciated, and sometimes even used. For seniors, this dynamic can be particularly taxing, both emotionally and financially. This type of relationship often thrives on guilt and obligation. The chronic taker might appeal to your sense of family duty or exploit your generous nature. They may say things like, "I don't know who else to turn to," or "You're the only one who can help me." While their words can tug at your heart, the truth becomes evident in their actions or lack thereof. When you need help or simply companionship, they're nowhere to be found. The emotional toll of such a relationship can be significant. Each interaction can leave you feeling resentful, yet conflicted, because you might fear being seen as selfish or unkind if you say no. Over time, these feelings can erode your sense of self-worth and even strain your relationships with other family members who may not see the full extent of what's happening. How to respond thoughtfully. Recognizing the chronic taker's behavior is the first step toward protecting yourself. It's important to understand that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It's an act of self-care. You've spent decades building a life and legacy, and it's not your responsibility to jeopardize your own stability to meet someone else's endless demands. When setting boundaries, clarity and kindness are key. For example, if a relative repeatedly asks for money, you might say, "I've realized I need to prioritize my own financial security as I plan for the future. I'm sorry, but I can't help you this time." Such statements are firm but respectful, leaving little room for argument while still acknowledging their feelings. It's also crucial to evaluate the level of reciprocity in the relationship. Healthy relationships involve give and take, even in small ways. If you notice that this person consistently fails to offer even emotional support or gratitude, it's a sign that the relationship may need to be redefined. Reducing your availability to them doesn't mean severing ties. It means protecting your emotional energy for those who truly value it. Surrounding yourself with supportive individuals can make this process easier. Share your concerns with trusted friends or family members who understand your perspective. They may offer advice or even help mediate the situation if the chronic taker becomes confrontational. Finally, remember that your worth is not defined by how much you give to others, especially to those who fail to give in return. You've spent your life nurturing, providing, and supporting others. Now is the time to focus on your own happiness and well being. By addressing the behavior of the chronic taker with firmness and compassion, you reclaim not only your time and resources, but also your sense of self respect. 2. The manipulator. The manipulator is a master of subtle control using tactics like guilt, flattery, or emotional blackmail to bend situations to their advantage. This relative often cloaks their intentions behind a veil of concern or affection, making their actions difficult to confront without feeling like you're the one at fault. Manipulators thrive on creating a sense of obligation, leaving you questioning your own feelings and decisions. For seniors who often value harmony and family bonds, dealing with such a person can be especially challenging and emotionally draining. Manipulators may use phrases like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me," or "I was just trying to help, but I guess my efforts aren't appreciated." Their words are carefully chosen to evoke guilt, making you feel as though you're being unreasonable if you don't comply with their demands. Over time, these interactions can erode your confidence and autonomy, leaving you second guessing your own needs and boundaries. One of the most insidious aspects of a manipulator is their ability to create drama where none exists. They may twist your words, pit family members against each other, or portray themselves as a victim to gain sympathy and control. Their goal is not mutual respect or understanding, but to maintain influence over you, often at the expense of your peace of mind. How to respond thoughtfully. The first step in dealing with a manipulator is recognizing their patterns. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with them. If you consistently feel guilty, anxious, or coerced, it's a sign that manipulation may be at play. Acknowledging this dynamic allows you to take back control and set boundaries without being drawn into their web of emotional entanglement. When addressing a manipulator, clarity and assertiveness are crucial. Avoid justifying or over explaining your decisions, as this only gives them more opportunities to twist your words. For instance, if they attempt to guilt you into doing something, a simple and firm response like, "I'm sorry, but I'm unable to do that," can be enough. By keeping your explanations brief and non negotiable, you leave little room for manipulation. It's also essential to manage your emotional reactions. Manipulators often prey on heightened emotions, using them to their advantage. Remaining calm and composed deprives them of the emotional leverage they seek. If a conversation begins to spiral into guilt tripping or accusations, it's okay to step back and say, "I need some time to think about this," giving yourself space to process and respond thoughtfully. Protecting yourself from a manipulator doesn't mean cutting ties entirely, unless their behavior becomes toxic to the point of harming your well being. Instead, it's about redefining the relationship in a way that prioritizes your needs and emotional health. Limit the time you spend with them and focus on relationships that are supportive and uplifting. Above all, remember that you are not responsible for managing someone else's emotions or fixing their problems, especially when it comes at the cost of your own happiness. Manipulators often exploit kindness, but setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of self preservation. By standing firm against manipulation, you reclaim not only your peace, but also your sense of agency and dignity, which are invaluable at any stage of life. 3. The toxic critic. The toxic critic is a relative who seems to have a constant, unwavering need to judge, belittle, or undermine you. Their words are often wrapped in the guise of constructive feedback or just looking out for you, but the reality is far different. Instead of offering support or encouragement, they focus solely on your flaws, your mistakes, and your perceived shortcomings. They do not celebrate your successes. Instead, they diminish them, leaving you feeling inadequate and less than. For seniors who have already weathered decades of life's challenges, the toxic critic's relentless negativity can be deeply damaging, both emotionally and mentally. This type of relative often has a sharp tongue and a critical eye, never missing an opportunity to point out what they consider wrong with your decisions, appearance, or lifestyle. It's as if nothing you do is ever good enough. Perhaps they comment on your health choices, question your financial decisions, or criticize your social circle, all while failing to see the harm their words cause. They rarely offer any positivity or gratitude, but instead leave a trail of criticism that chips away at your confidence over time. What makes the toxic critic particularly difficult to deal with is their ability to disguise their criticism as concern. They might say things like, "I'm only telling you this because I care about you," or "I just want what's best for you." These statements create confusion, making you wonder if you're overreacting or if you really should listen to their advice, even though it leaves you feeling small and unworthy. Over time, this creates a toxic cycle where you second guess your choices, lose sight of your own voice, and become trapped in a relationship that offers little joy or support. How to respond thoughtfully. The key to responding to a toxic critic is recognizing that their words are more about them than about you. Often, people who criticize others relentlessly do so because of their own insecurities or need to feel superior. Their harsh words are a reflection of their own struggles, not a true measure of your worth. Recognizing this can help you separate their criticism from your self-esteem. When confronted with their comments, the first step is to stay grounded in your own reality. You don't need to internalize their judgments. Instead of reacting defensively or feeling ashamed, acknowledge their words with a calm and collected response. You can say something like, "I understand you have your opinions, but I'm comfortable with the choices I've made." This sets a boundary without escalating the conflict, letting them know that their criticism is not welcome or necessary. Another powerful approach is to limit the opportunities for them to criticize you. You don't have to share every detail of your life with a toxic critic, especially if you know they will only use it as ammunition for their judgment. Protect your emotional energy by being selective about what you discuss with them. Share positive experiences and accomplishments with those who support you, and guard against the negativity that the toxic critic brings into your life. It's also important to cultivate a support system of people who lift you up and affirm your worth. Seek out relationships that encourage mutual respect and kindness. By surrounding yourself with those who value you for who you truly are, you can begin to silence the toxic voices that attempt to undermine your self-esteem. Lastly, when the toxic critic's behavior becomes too much to bear, it's okay to distance yourself emotionally or physically. Redefining the relationship doesn't mean cutting them off entirely, but it does mean creating space for your own well-being. A simple, respectful boundary such as, "I think we need to take a break from certain conversations for a while," can help protect your peace without causing unnecessary conflict. Remember, your worth is not determined by someone else's narrow perspective. You are enough as you are, and no amount of criticism can take away the value of your experiences, your choices, and your unique journey. By setting firm boundaries with the toxic critic, you reclaim your voice, your confidence, and your emotional health, ensuring that the relationships you nurture are those that bring light, not darkness, into your life. Cherishing peace and choosing relationships wisely. As we navigate the later stages of life, the relationships we maintain hold profound significance. They shape our emotional well-being, influence our peace of mind, and even impact our health. At this stage, It's not about the quantity of connections, but the quality of those bonds. While family and community ties are essential, it's equally important to recognize when certain relationships, whether with neighbors or relatives, cease to serve your well being and instead drain your energy or compromise your happiness. Letting go of toxic or challenging relationships doesn't mean giving up on people, it means choosing yourself. It's an act of wisdom and self respect to protect the serenity and joy you've worked so hard to build. Your time and energy are precious, and they deserve to be spent with individuals who value you, respect your boundaries, and enrich your life. Remember, setting boundaries or distancing yourself from negativity isn't selfish, it's necessary. It allows you to focus on the relationships that bring comfort, laughter, and companionship, ensuring that your remaining years are filled with positivity and purpose. You've earned the right to live with peace, dignity, and love. And by carefully curating the people you allow into your circle, you create the space for the kind of life that truly honors your journey. In the end, life is a collection of moments, and the people who surround you have the power to make those moments brighter or heavier. Choose wisely. Embrace those who uplift you and distance yourself from those who don't. This is your time to cherish the relationships that truly matter and to step into every day with a heart full of gratitude and a spirit unburdened by unnecessary conflict. You deserve nothing less. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.